Attention, all you fishes in the sea. Welcome to the Fisch Bowl with Sam Fish.
Awesome. Alexis Humanes on the Fish Bowl. Welcome.
Hello, hello. How are you doing, Sam? Everything okay?
Excellent. Things are going great. Thank you for taking the time to swim in the bowl with me.
And thanks for inviting me. I really thank for that opportunity, to be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been following everything with Sleeping Mountain recently and Stoomfest, and really excited to talk to you about the band and the festival, as well as all like the awesome lineup that I saw already that's supposed to happen. And it's what, like 11 days and counting.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, awesome. The first kind of question I have for you is, what got you interested in music and like to in general for Sleeping Mountain and your passion to put on the festival and everything kind of related to that.
Yeah. So if we really go back into the beginning of why I got into music, I would say is something really usual that happened. My parents were the reason why, because they were nonstop listening music in vinyls at home and dancing with us and being like really open-minded about different genres of music. I think that's what got me into music, really, and I just follow their path, continue listening to different bands and rediscovering new genres and stuff like that. And Stoomfest, so basically, like you said, we have a project called Sleeping Mountain. Is a band that we are three in total. The idea of a Stoomfest emerged because we really wanted to give visibility to our music. The guitarist player of our band, Aitor, he works in a community of warehouses in London, and he's a tattoo artist. And in front of his studio, there is a warehouse where it has the capabilities to organize like music events and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember around November, December, he has had that crazy idea of 3 years ago. Let's do a festival, guys. Let's do a festival about the music that we know, the music that we listen, and this kind of niche. And let's try to build something different in London. And yeah, we jumped into the project 3 years ago. We are a team of four in total. And so far it's been really successful. We are really happy because we are creating a strong community, I would say. It's something that is growing in a really healthy way because our ethos is music first. A lot of
Definitely.
festivals, they start with the idea of how we can do money out of all of this. And for us, it's more about how we can make people to reconnect with bands that they are starting or they are a bit well known into this genre of desert rock, stoner, doom, heavy psych, and how we can do something where the listeners, the musicians, they will feel really close and connected to each other. So yeah, we part with this like mission ambition, and so far the experience has been amazing. Of course, it's difficult as well because we all have our independent jobs, 20, like 9 to 5. So it's
Right.
something that we are more doing in our free time, but definitely something that kind of turn on and spark inside of us of maybe redirecting our lives in that direction because we really feel it's something that we love to do. So yeah, that was the reason we started the Stoopfest, basically.
Awesome. Awesome. First of all, it's because of my dad that I'm into music and film the way I am. I'm big into movies and stuff, horror especially, horror, sci-fi, and all that.
Oh, me
Um,
too, man.
I, I I love all sorts of different films. There's not much that I'm not a fan of in the film genre. And as far as music goes, my dad from like an early age, I remember in like, kindergarten, first grade, he'd pick me up in the minivan and, Tommy and Who's Next and like Led Zeppelin, would be playing and the Stones and all that. And, another big obscure, but really the Mozart of rock and roll, Frank Zappa. My dad was like really into, and thus, I got into the Dead. My dad's a big Deadhead, and all like the major, prog rock and classic rock movement was all like, I grew up on. And then of course I'm like, I was born in '88, so grew up in the '90s around the
Yeah,
whole, alternative, rock scene and
really nice
rap
period of
scene.
time.
Yes, yes, before the chaos of where the world is at now.
Yeah,
But, just I always considered it like the really the second, very like similar to the '60s, '70s movement, just how there was like a plethora of music then. There was a plethora of music that was like all going on at the same time in the '90s as well. And since then, like my music tastes have really evolved, and it's like I really, really love like the shoegaze, dream pop, like psychedelic stuff, and in like kind of retrospect, opposition, I love doom and stoner rock and like the heavy, psychedelic stuff. I've had a chance to see King Buffalo, which is big in the States as
nice. It's
far as stoner rock goes, and
in
um,
our radar for Stoomfest. Let's see if one day it happens as well.
yeah. I was what actually one of my questions was like you guys are doing something that one I try to do like with my show with helping like independent artists and kind of more obscure bands. I mean, I would love to, build up to the opportunity to interview people like, Metallica and
Yeah,
Anthrax and, Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor and all those people. But like my kind of mission, same as yours and what Stoomfest is kind of doing is to like help one, bring like genres of music that are a little more obscure, but if you could bring them to the attention of really the audience that like, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can build something, really great and essentially bring in like, the next rock and roll movement or movements, I should say, so I'm a
Yeah,
big like supporter of all that stuff and trying to do that myself. So,
yeah.
uh,
Thank you very much.
absolutely. I mean,
Like you said, it's important, because we live in an era of technology where there is kind of a lot of over information and kind of I also feel like everything is going so fast and the value of music as a sense of art I think is a bit lost and blurry right now. People don't realize it's a way of expression or release feelings or tell stories or fight against a political movement or way of thinking. And I feel like there is a lot of bands now that they are taking it more on the business side without
yeah,
understanding they have like a big responsibility of how maybe younger societies will transform with their music as well. I don't know if I am explaining properly myself, but I remember when I was young, like you say, like growing with all of these bands like Pink Floyd, Fela Kuti, I remember as well, like Led Zeppelin. I was also listening like Limp Bizkit, like different kind
mm,
of bands, and they helped me to understand myself and to know in which position I am, in
right,
that right moment and how to deal with my own battles as well and understanding that there is more people who pass through the same situations. That's the reason I would really like this genre because it's true that most of the bands are focusing in this kind of field of, like folklore and a bit like satanic ritualistic stuff, or even like related with smoking and stuff like that. But there is another side that is also like talking about how, I don't know how to say in English, it's like
The
they kind of,
embodiment of like the soul, kind of like
yeah,
mind,
exactly,
like
yeah,
creativity, stuff like that.
yeah, I really like it. I think like music in general, you were mentioning a lot of bands that I grow with, and it's something that I think is really important to continue doing this kind of independent festival for younger generations as well. Like we are lucky enough to have the chance to experience these bands, and I think it's good to give now visibility to the ones that maybe they will be the next ones.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
and there is massive companies taking lead in all the festivals, and it's a bit of a shame because they have kind of monopoly. But with projects like this, like we are in London, there are like 3 4 festivals that we do something similar, and all of us, we have an amazing vibes because we know what's the reason we are doing it for.
Right.
And hopefully it will continue.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, on the subject of like music and kind of the classic rock and older bands, I have to say, out of all the stuff that Sleeping Mountain has put out so far, including your you guys' debut album, I think my favorite thing that you guys have done is actually covering "In Court of the Crimson King."
Oh yeah, really nice cover. That's thanks to Aitor, I would say. He is really passionate musician that I never saw a person listening so much music nonstop. Like his his life is always with a band on the speakers or on the shop or at home with his vinyls. And I think he has a really strong relationship with prog rock
Yeah.
and psych rock from, like you mentioned, King Crimson. Pink Floyd is one of his
Right.
favorite.
Right.
Jethro Tull as well.
Mhm.
He grew in that era because we have a 10-year gap.
Okay.
Uh, he's
Okay.
10 years older than me, so I think he experienced much more better all of that transition. He really lived
Right.
that time, which I think it makes sense because I am more fan of kind of Led Zeppelin vibes, but he's more of Pink Floyd vibes. Like,
Interesting.
which is cool. It's really cool.
I would say I'm a little more with him.
Yeah, 100%.
I,
He
I, I
like,
like I like Pink Floyd. Like, don't get me wrong, like Zeppelin is one of the most amazing rock bands, legends, gods of, the time. But I mean, to be honest, it's like if you listen to all their albums, they kind of have like a lot of filler music, you
yeah,
know. Pink Floyd, it's like you started to say, and everyone things about music, it's like a story, so
yeah.
like all the songs kind of go together. The one person though in that band, I'm not afraid to badmouth him, is Roger Waters. Gilmore is the one that like made the band sound, like totally change the sound from Sid Barrett to what like Dark Side, is.
Yeah.
And if you listen to Dark Side, the only goddamn song on there that has no business being there is Money, you know. And then it's like ironic how that's like the one song off the album that like, was what on the top 100 for like 10 years or
Yeah.
something, you
Yeah.
know. but like it's the forget what comes before it, but us and them, as soon as it transitions into that, it's like yes, we're back on track with what this album is like, you know, so supposed to be, you know. But I'm a big Floyd person, and in fact, some people might really criticize me on this, but I honestly think that The Wall is probably their worst album.
Oh,
I think there's some great tracks off The Wall,
hmm
uh, but in terms of like,
but that's the beauty about music, right? Like,
right, right, it's subjective, and it's everybody
and
gets like something out of it.
I need to confess something. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
started to listen to Pink Floyd 5 years ago,
Okay, okay.
and the reason why is because I saw during my time of listening and discovering bands so many people wearing the T-shirt of Dark Side of the Moon, and so many people telling me you need to listen to Pink Floyd, that I got overwhelmed, and I am like, man, if there's so many people telling me, means that maybe it's not, the
Yeah,
creators
yeah, I know.
of
It's
like,
overhyped or something.
yeah, exactly, and thanks to Aitor, where he introduced me Pink Floyd in a different way, and also my fiance, who also really likes Pink Floyd. I started to travel with them, I would say, with Pink Floyd, because for me it's
Yeah,
like a trip, like you said, is really well produced. Is the lyrics are as well really emotional, and I think they have a lot of meaning and power. Like you said, depends of who we are as people. One album could represent more than other because of our
right,
experiences. For
right.
example, The Wall, I didn't really listen a lot. I know it's a big criticism about education system.
Yeah,
They have the movie which I watched as well, and I am really impressive as well about the visuals. But for me, is Wish You Were Here, 100%.
that's a great album.
Life in Pompeii is
Yes, yes.
something incredible as well. What they were able to achieve, knowing that they were living in the analog era, yeah,
Right.
where the resources to create this kind of sounds and environment is much more difficult than with the technology that we have right now. And people sometimes are not aware of what technology or capabilities they were having before to do that.
Definitely, definitely. And
Yeah.
you could say that like Pink Pink Floyd, and probably you could say like the Velvet Underground and Lou Reed were, and you could probably throw Iggy Pop in there too, were big influences for what like turned in what the genre of like shoegaze and
Yeah.
like dream pop, and all of that has like evolved into today,
Yeah.
and it's like almost only getting better and better as it keeps evolving, and you know with like what you just said with technology, different things you can do with stuff now, and effects with different stuff with guitars and different instruments and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
it's really interesting. But I mean, and again, just back to prog rock. Like prog rock is one of my all-time favorite genres, especially it's like there's more obscurity, bands in the prog rock genre, especially, some today. Like I love Rosalie Cunningham.
Oh,
I love Bobby Dazzle.
nice.
The both those I love Blues Pills and the Spiders, and I saw that they're going to be actually playing at Stoomfest, Alana.
Ah, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes,
100%. And it's something that we also want, kind of like something that you say about Stoomfest, like we don't want to close to one genre, because I think,
right,
like you were saying as well, and I love to know people like that they are not only close to, okay, I only listen metal, man. I only
right.
listen metal. The rest, I'm not interested. I think music is not about that. You know, I can listen an album of a Cuban artist that is just with a guitar, and I can also listen electronic band with hundreds of keyboards. If
Right,
if it moves me, that's important. That's for me the concept of music. If it generates something on me, means is made for me to be listened, or I can get what they are trying to transmit. And is what we try at the Stoomfest as well. That we are not gonna be close only to few genres. We want to expand. You know, we want
right.
people to show bands that we think they are worthy to listen. Last year we brought one band called Kanan, which are like three great musicians that they do stoner prog rock
Hmm.
with such a level of emotion and technique that a lot of people were blown away and they didn't know about the band, you know. So I think it's important as well, like for communities that they are maybe close to one niche of music, to expand a bit their listening range.
Right, right. And I mean, just to say again, I saw Lana is going to be playing at the Stoomfest this year, and
Mhm.
to plug their most recent album, I they switched lead singers, I believe, for the new whatever the lineup is, but the their the most recent album and the few albums that came out before, it's like, I think it's great to feature bands like that. It's like you can hear like prog rock, but there's also like, fuzz and like, you
Yeah,
know, stoner rock and heavy metal elements and doom elements and, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I'm really on this kick right now of like listening to like these types of, within these different genres of rock, bands that are like back, like female vocalists that are
yeah,
backed by like all, like guys and
yeah,
everything. And I think, it's really cool to see we mentioned before Blues Pills, and I'll throw another one in there, the Spiders,
yeah. I think it's
WooCon.
super important, like you said. Like it's important to give visibility. Like future is about that as well, right? Like we are transforming and we are more open minded in terms of everything is for everyone, and it's good to have this kind of female artists jumping into an industry that it was really restricted to male at the beginning, like to
Right.
be kind of a musician. You know, it's been for long time like you are, you know, a rock star. There is no female rock star. There wasn't a female rock star before. And you see a lot of punk bands as well in the UK, and shoegaze bands as well, and with a lot of female musicians that they are so incredible. I think it's a beautiful thing, you know, because before people were able to, you know, female and males were listening to the music, why they cannot do it, you know.
Right.
and
Right.
and you know, I mean more about the 50s and 60s when it was much more restricted, and seeing all of these new bands that they are coming with amazing ideas is I love it. I love it, you know, because everything that is related with music for me is kind of, how to say, is my therapy.
Yes.
So having people that they are experiencing the same, and that they are open minded and they can share is beautiful. It's a really nice feeling. So
I definitely agree, and that's again, one of my big things is I love interviewing musicians, and especially people like you, and in more of the underground indie scene, just to really have raw conversations about music and hopes and inspirations for you know bringing in like the next hopeful genres of rock and the movement and everything. Because I totally agree. We're in like a period where like the mainstream is it's very business-like. It is business-like, you know. You kind of have to have the money to, have everything, put forth and hosted and press and, to get the music out there for the streams
Yeah.
and everything. And, and
But there always
it's
must be a balance as well, I feel.
right, right,
Like people shouldn't lose that flame that makes them make music, you know?
exactly.
Like they cannot forget that you are doing it for the soul, not for the money.
Right,
I love that you are talking about this as well because I kind of see now a kind of a movement where people are tired of soulless things and is coming back a bit more to the analog way of how music was done before. Like you said, like there is a lot of shoegaze going on now. There is a lot of punk bands now, at least in UK, that they are doing again like this kind of trashy punk
right,
and and it's lovely to see that this is happening, you know. And of course now we have all the resources and we need to understand, like you say, that it's a business, and at the end of the day you need to have food on the plate.
right,
but but it must be always a balance. Like you never need to forget the the young adult inside of you who was dreaming about these things, you know.
right, right. Specifically, like there's like it's not like there's the UK, the EU. There's a lot of big, awesome music movement going on in Australia and New Zealand as well. And really, I kind of, some is going on in the US, but definitely not as prominent as I would say in the different areas I just mentioned before. But specifically, I'm really connected with friends on Facebook and everything with bands from the UK and Glasgow, Ireland area. There's a band I interviewed a while back, fantastic kind of band, and the one of the newest genres of rock that just kind of is becoming prominent is new wave grunge. Speaking of all the 90s stuff we talked about, they're called Strangers with Guns.
Nice.
They sound like a mixture of like Alice in Chains and like the Melvins and Black Flag and all that.
Amazing.
And
Amazing combinations.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, those guys, I mean, they have a phenomenal sound. And then there's another band I'm friends with from the Glasgow area. They're now in I think somewhere in Asia doing a lot of touring with another band I interviewed. The first one is called Geography of the Moon, and they're kind of like sounds very like kind of like the Breeders and different stuff. They're a couple, and they just put out another album, and there's just like so many just like really great bands in the UK right now, and I follow all like the labels over there, like Heavy Psych Sounds and Fuzz Club Records, and in the States we have like Little Cloud Records and Rise Above Records, and you
Do
know
you
uh,
do you see a tendency now where, because maybe it's my impression, but maybe I am wrong. I want to share that with you. Maybe you share the same point. Do you think it's growing back, all of this? Do you
I
think
do.
we are experiencing the beginning of a wave that is going again up?
I honestly think we are definitely starting to experience like I see like a multitude of different genres
Yeah.
kind of like emerging. There's the new wave grunge, there's the stoner rock, fuzz, psych rock, all that. There's the shoegaze, dream pop movement that is really big right now. And then there's another big movement that I've seen over the last couple years that's coming back in a only growing in a bigger way, which I think the only way I can like describe it is like retro 60s revival. It's a lot of bands that like actually in the UK they just put out their debut album, plug them because I'm in talks of trying to get them on the show, the Crystal Teardrop.
The Teardrop. I will listen to them as well.
They're UK as well, and just put out their debut album, and it's on Bandcamp. Shout out to them and plugging them. And the whole album is like a 60s fusion, like psychedelic.
That's nice. That's
All
nice.
the stuff with like a centaur and stuff like that. So
Nice that he's coming back. I have
yeah.
a theory is because of I have a sister who is like 7 years younger than
Okay.
me. 34, she's now 27.
Okay.
Young generation, like it's not young now, but I remember when she was on her 20s and I was 27. That generations are again to be a bit more lost.
Yeah.
Uh, it seems like when there is this kind of collective, I don't want to call it depression, but collective misunderstanding of fulfillment, or
Definitely.
collective feeling of what is the reason I am here, what should I do, like I can feel is when this kind of music again is coming back because it's a way for people to reconnect and to express and to find kind of a guidance, you know, that there is more people outside. Like I don't know what do you think, but I really feel we can see, like you said, that right now we are living an era that there's so many things happening in the whole planet that they are so chaotic and so confusing and always like news and stuff like that is constantly triggering you with not positive way of thinking and only
Right.
like catastrophes and stuff that as that maybe we are more adults we are able to extrapolate that, but younger generations is like where I am, like what
Yeah.
I am doing. So is this kind of global crisis are a perfect space for bands of this kind of genres to grow again,
Right.
because I think that's the field that they touch. You know what I mean? Kind of.
Definitely, and actually, I'll comment on that because I'm like, I guess three years older than you, and I remember, like, I was young enough to like remember like where I was when I heard Kurt Cobain died, and I was like young enough to remember the whole like Biggie Tupac thing, and I remember it was, I guess, the MTV, I forget, it was the music awards and the movie awards where the two mothers of Biggie and Tupac came out and did this whole thing that was to show unity and everything and to say like, stop the violence. It needs to be about music
Yeah.
and where it started. And I remember all that. I remember Lane Staley dying. I remember hearing like all these, all the heroes of the 90s movement all dying, and but I also remember like the transition afterwards, and there was like again the business trying to capitalize on grunge, so then you had post grunge, which was all like Nickelback and Creed and just like the ugh,
Yeah.
of like that genre, and then like I remember the White Stripes was like a breath of fresh air. Jack White, it was like in a time where people thought rock and roll was like dead, you know, he was like essentially the Stevie Ray Vaughan, of like that era. And I also have to kind of emphasize that like the internet, like so many big musicians of the 90s and in the 80s, like Henry Rollins commented on it a lot. The internet is what all those like big names of like the 80s and 90s talk about, like that was quote unquote the death of not just rock and roll, but music in general. And
Yeah,
I think where like the internet with streaming and everything really hit in like the 2000s, not the 2010s, but like the early 2000s. Some of it was with Napster, some of it was with, I forget what the other one was, but there were all these different like downloading
platform.
services, right,
Yeah,
right, that you could download music for free with torrents and stuff. And then you had like the next step, which was like Spotify and Bandcamp and
that,
SoundCloud.
yeah. It
And I
transformed
think,
everything as well.
right,
Everything.
and I think it is it took like basically a good 20 years, now kind of like 25, to really reset, like have music totally reset itself and have like to
Exactly.
to basically allow the next movement to happen. And because of that, and because of like young people like your like in our age and like your sister's age and stuff, that essentially, like you said, don't have, there's no musical heroes anymore. There's no,
You know,
like there's no Lennons, there's no, Frank Zappas, there's no Kurt Cobains. I think with like the age of the internet and streaming and stuff like that, it basically took the underground, because it always starts with the whole grunge movement was underground in the 80s, and then just by luck with Nirvana with Smells Like Teen Spirit, overnight it became the globally the new wave. And
yeah,
I think that like we are in fact just in the early stages of like not just like one specific movement where it's like grunge and the gangster rap or rap of the time, like in the
yeah,
90s, where like in getting ready for like everything that's going on in the world, like you said, and all that, like where the underground is getting ready to explode.
yeah. And I think like it's interesting all of these facts that you are mentioning because what I'm studying music industry. I am doing industry business, and I really look at the insights and everything. And something common, like you said, this 20 years gap where it was a transition between Napster's downloads to streaming platforms. Yeah,
Hmm.
people lost the sense of value
Right.
of being part of something somehow. Yeah, it transformed. Before you were buying a vinyl or a CD and you were having something from them,
Exactly.
where now with the Spotify and things like that, like there is no value. There is value for the consumer because you have access to absolutely everything, but you are not part of something.
Right.
You are like everybody else, like everyone can do the same thing that you're doing. So statistics in vinyls, for example, in the last 2 years, they are selling a lot of more vinyls than in the last
Yeah.
15, 17 years again, which is, like you said, is you can see like how, again, the how to say in English, the sand clock is turning around again.
Right. Right. The
People are tired of all of this, and they are again coming back to all of this, which is super important. So I really think the point that you address about all of this is true.
Absolutely. And like I'm like I'm happy that like I'm still, you know, I'm in the later half of my 30s, but I'm still like in my youth. Like I'm young enough that I can still go see these bands if I want. and at the very and even I mean and actually because of technology, I'm like in an even better scenario because I can reach out to people like you and all the bands that I've had on my show, and I can talk to them face to face, in a whole nother country, time zone and everything, and have a conversation about, music and the future and the past and the present, and all that, and the business and the future of the business and the future of like underground and just everything about, music and these, niche genres that are going to be the next, wave of like rock and roll. And, it's for people like us to be able to help, those people and people like yourself and by putting on Stoomfest and me, having people come on the show and talk about music and help promote their stuff. And I have like an analogy for the Fish Bowl, and that'll lead into my next question for
Yeah.
which is like, the Fish Bowl, is like the ocean, and in the ocean there's all these different fish, and sea creatures, and they all coexist, and everybody has a purpose, and there's, not one single creature in the sea is independent from, all the other coexisting creatures. The metaphor, I guess, is like we can all coexist and help each other and,
Hmm.
promote each other in like a, you know, s- school of fish, the double pun, you know,
I,
system.
I I get it. Is what I like from that analogy as well is kind of, if maybe you kill one type of fish, you will damage a lot the ecosystem. So it's important, like you said, about that balance, that everyone can still develop their stuff.
Right.
Like yeah, it's like that. I think in society as well, and
Definitely. Definitely.
it's good. It's good that as well we are lucky to at the same time to live in an era where in our cases of more Western civilizations, we are really able to express ourselves and being able to try more disruptive genres of music, and explore these kind of alternatives without anyone pointing at us or anything.
Definitely.
Uh,
Definitely.
well, there are still a lot of things for improvement, of course, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But yeah, I think we are lucky, and we are lucky to see young generations as well taking the lead on keep creating music, which is key. I think I don't know where I heard that, but something like, "What will be a world without music?"
Hey there, all my fishes in the sea. Thanks for tuning into today's episode and for being a subscriber. Your continued listenership and support means the most and helps keep the show growing to deeper and deeper depths. I want to let all my guppies in the sea know the Fish Bowl has now officially partnered with FastCustomShirts.com, where they're now selling custom Fish Bowl t-shirts under their podcast and website section. Every t shirt that's purchased helps and goes a long way to keep the show growing to deeper and deeper and higher depths. I also now have custom hats, beanies, handbags, pens, mouse pads, everything to make you look like the coolest looking fish in the sea, which you can DM me directly on Instagram at the Fishbowl88 or on Facebook at just the Fishbowl, or you can friend request me, Sam Fish, directly and get yours today. Your continued listenership and support again means the most. It's the most important fishes that flock together. We are a school of fish and we keep the unit going. Let's all keep swimming upstream.